So this in this we are going to create what we call a DynamoDB in AWS. For us to start a DynamoDB in AWS, you need to have AWS accounts. Once you have AWS accounts, you will need to log in, click on back to login, or sign in to log in into the console. So once you log in, you will see the root user different from my ham user. Root user is the main account. Why the ham is when you are given a kind of policy or privileges to somebody. So now I only log in with my root password, root user account. I enter the password, log in. Now it's login. So since I've logged in now, the next thing I need to do here is for me to create a DynamoDB. The purpose of the class is for me to create a DynamoDB. So DynamoDB, there are different ways of you creating the DynamoDB. Because I've used it before, that is why you see it on the recent visit here. So if you don't see it here, let me quickly highlight it so you understand what I'm talking about. So look at this now. When you look at this, if you don't see this what I highlight, the next thing you need to do is for you to come to this service, or you come to this searching bar and you enter DynamoDB. So you see it here. Once you click on it, it will take you to DynamoDB page. So let me quickly click on this DynamoDB because I've set it up already. So once I click on the DynamoDB, the first thing you need to see here is create a table. Can you see create a table? So once I click on this create a table, what I need, you would give a table. You will give your table name. Let me assume that this table, I'm calling it employee. You can give it any name. So it depends on the structure of your database, employee. So now, partition key. In the normal SQL, in the normal relational database, we have what we call a primary key. But in DynamoDB, they don't call it primary, it's a partition key. It's still the same thing as primary key. So I use the ID as my primary key. So that my primary key, I might use it as a number or as a string. Let me use my own as a string. So when I use it as a string, the next thing here is what we call a sorting key. But in a relational database, they call it a foreign key. But it's optional here because in this table that I want to create now, there is no relational table there. There is no relationship table that will make me to create a foreign key. So if I have a foreign key in my table, you need to specify the foreign key, but I don't have. This one is just normal query. And another thing I want to specify here, when you look at this one, it said default setting, fine. But if you use a customized setting, it means that they are going to be billing you. When you look at the billing part now, can you see how much they said they will bill? Estimate cost is this per month. Very cheap anyway. But for the purpose of using it for this course, I will just make use of a default setting. So once I use the default setting, the next thing I will click on create table. So once I create the table now, you hold on for the table to sync and create. Now it's created, fine. Once you created the table, the next thing we need to do, since creating the table, it will be available for use shortly. So that means it stays syncing. So you hold on for the table to create. Fine, it's created, active. Now since the table is active, you need to click on that table so that I want to create what we call a column. You need to specify the structure of your table. So in my table, in the employee, I will need to gather the information like name, phone number, and also age. I will stop there just for the tutorial of the class. So just for this class, I will stop at name. You can create name, email, also phone number, and also age. Let me just use that for method. So for me to create it, you can't just come here and start creating it. You need to go to what we call exploit. This, you need to go to this place, exploit. So once you click on the exploit, it will take me to this place. Now, since I'm here now, I will explain the scan and query item. But the first thing we need to first do is for us to create the structure of our table. So now, we have empty item, empty record, but you need to create a record. So for me to create a record, I click on create item. So once I click on create item, remember that partition, which is ID we created before, there's no value for it. Let me use a 100 or a 100. Now create another one, binary string. Let me create another string called name. What's the name? Ola, or let me say Olayore. Let me say Olayore Adeniro. Okay. Olayore Adeniro. So now I create the next one, which is email. Email should be a string. Email. Email should be a string. Let me use Samuel@gmail.com. So the next one, let me just add one more, which is let me say email and phone number. Let me say phone 000613132353. So now after I created everything, you click on this create item. You click on this one, create item. Can you see it now? You click on create item. It will create the item for us. Now, the next one, the next thing to do when you look at the record, when you look at the record now, suppose if I want to edit this record, maybe Samuel, I want to change the email of that Samuel, and the instead of Samuel, I want to say Samuel 2. So now you click on this, look at this action, go to edit item. Can you see? O2. I'll just use it like that. Save and close. Save and close. It will bring it to this way. Can you see now is this thing? Let me create another item so that I can use that is a creating item. Let me create another item ID 1011. So now create the next one, which is email and name. Name Ola Jide Samuel. Create another one, which is email string. Email olajide@gmail.com. Create the next one, which is phone number. Phone 080, like that. You can make it a random like that. You create item. When you create item, can you see now we have a two record now? We have two records. So now in the question here, in our question, let me see where I put the question 2. In our question, you will notice that they asked us to create the Amazon DynamoDB table file, which we have created. They asked us to create enter data into an Amazon DynamoDB, which the one we have done now. We've entered the data, the record. Now the next thing they ask us to do is query an Amazon DynamoDB. For us to query Amazon DynamoDB, you come here, look at the scan and look at the query. These two. When I say okay, scan everything, it will run everything, all the table here for me. But now the query, the difference between scan and query, scan will just pull everything. Why query will tell you how to specify the particular row. Now table employee, fine. Attributes. Now what type of attribute you want to enter? Oh god. Okay. Attribute you want to enter. Suppose if you want to search a record by ID, you say, well, I want the system to get all the record of the primary ID that has 100. When I say run, it will only fetch that record for me. Can you see only the record? So now, if I come here again, I want to see the one of 101. Come back to the query, run. So by the time you come here, you see only the record of 101. So that is what they ask us to do. When you refresh it back again, so when you come here, delete it, run, it will scan. Sorry. It will display all the record. It will display all the record in the DynamoDB. All the record in the DynamoDB. Can you see now? So the next thing we want to do, which the question has us to do, is to delete an Amazon DynamoDB. How can we now delete Amazon DynamoDB? You can come here. Suppose if I want to delete the second one or first one, let me delete the second one here. So you come to this action. You said delete item. Can you see delete item? So the item will be deleted. Now that's where they ask us to stop. But I want to add another one to here. So by it's okay, we want to, let me duplicate this one. Come here to duplicate this. Duplicate. So when I duplicate, put this one as 101. Put this one as Olajide again. So this one, put it as a random number. So create it. When you create it, when you come back to the record, can you see it now? So now after this, suppose if you want to download all the record to CSV, Excel sheet, you can select the download selected item. Once I click on it, it will download it in Excel. By the time you click on that Excel record, you will notice that everything you have in DynamoDB is import to the Excel spreadsheet for us. Can you see it now? Can you see it now? Can you see it now? So now, this one. So that is all about everything about DynamoDB. But the next thing that I want you to understand, after we create all that's the end of the DynamoDB, or query and all these things that has us to do in DynamoDB. But now, suppose if you want to now use this DynamoDB with your application. So if you want to use it with application, you need to give a permission policy. You need to give rules. Which user that will have permission to this particular DynamoDB. If you don't give role and the permission, the application will not be able to use it, because when you give a role, then you can now be able to make use of what we call a secret ID and also secret key. So how can you not get a secret ID and secret key? By applying the policy of a role of that particular, of any particular user. So once you apply that, you'll be able to use it. Now, as you are looking at the DynamoDB I created now, I can't use it with my application, but I can only work with it on this Amazon platform. Suppose if you have a programmer and the programmer decide that, okay, I want, because you can't give the programmer or developer, you can't give a developer your root password. You need to create a new user for that developer, and you give the policy and also the permission to that to that developer what area he or she should be able to handle on that Amazon platform. Now, I want to go straight to giving the policy. Remember, this is done already perfect. I'm done with DynamoDB. But the next thing I need to do is for me to give a permission now. So how can I give a permission? So now I go to the I am. When I go to I am, or let me first go to user. I have a user here. I don't want to use any of this user. I don't want to use any of this user. Let me create another user separate, because reason I don't want to use any of this user. Let me create another user separate. For me to create a user, I will just come here and click on user. Let me call the user developer, because I assume that is developer that want to handle the application. Now, fine, I come here. So once I come here, I click on I check on the provide user access today. So now I give I want to create I am user. So once I want to give I want to create I am user, automatic. I want to show you this thing. So automatic generated auto-generated password. Now after auto-generated password, I click on next. So after next, it has me to add a group, which I don't have a group. I don't have a group. Another way for me to create it is for me to no, don't let me create a group. Let me create a policy direct. So attach policy directly. So by check what kind of a policy I want to give to this particular thing. I say okay, this my developer and do what we call EC2. EC2. Let me expand this. We need to expand this. EC2 give access to EC2 full 1. So now number 2, I want to let me just give DynamoDB. I think for me to quickly DynamoDB full access. Fine. DynamoDB, can you see it now? So once I give the access to that one, I'll click on the next. Once I click on next, move down. Can you see now? The access given to this developer, number 1 is Amazon DynamoDB and also EC2. With this one automatically create with when I create the user. So the next thing is that I will come here and click on create user. Once I click on create user, notice this thing, very important. So this is the login that I'm going to use, and this user and this very important. Let me first download this one. Return to this. So now I've created another user. Which is a developer. But now I want to attach permission. No, I've attached the permission already. The next thing I want to attach is security. Let me give a security to it so that the developer will be able to make use of it on the application. So now create access key. How can I create access key? Click on this create access key. I move to this first one, command line interface. Now I move down by coming to I understand the confirmation. Click next. So now description tag, go to next. So now I have this too. I need to quickly come here. This is these two things, access key and a secret key, is what a programmer will use on their application to be able to communicate with the DynamoDB. Without this one, we won't be able to communicate with DynamoDB from the application. Now, the next thing I need to do is that let me download this one too on Excel, because I will need it. These two. Can you see now? Developer, this is the credential, this is this. So click on done. Once I click on done, I will, yes, it's done. Fine. I'll go to my user. So fine, everything is done. I don't need group for this one, so we can do that one later. So I don't need group for developer. So now after this one, the next thing I need to do in this part, remember let me quickly copy this thing somewhere. Let me call this one developer, so that I will be able to copy the two downloaded file. I copy the two downloaded file because I need it. So now the first one is credential. Look at what I want to do. Remember, this page so now this page now you are looking at is a root login page, but you can't allow developer to begin to handle this area. It's dangerous for your application, so they can hack you, they can log you yourself out. You will not be able to access it. The only thing you can do is for us to create the user separate. Now I want this user to continue handle another portal, so let me log in separate with cognito path. Let me log in with cognito path. So I will come here now. Look at what I want to do, because the new user I created for developer now. So minimize it. I paste it here, enter it. So it will tell me the developer is loading. You hold on for this thing to load now. So now it showed me that sign in as I am user, because this is the new user now. Whatever this user is doing, it will not have access to any other thing inside the main root login. So now let me go to the Excel spreadsheet again to copy the password. I copy the password, paste it here, and this one is the developer. The username is developer. So now when I log in, it will take me to another page called enter password. So it has me to log in with to change my password. What is the old password? The old password is this one. Fine. What's the new password? The new password now is what I want to change, because it's a developer. You are the one created it from your root root area. But now developer needs to, or user need to change the password so that it can flow with the password. Now let me just create this password and call it what's the password? Okay. Let me create the password. Hold on. Now change the fine. So now the password is changed successfully. Now you can notice that this is a platform now. This is a portal now for developer. Can you see the developer? The name is changing here. Can you see now? Developer. Let me show you. Can you see the name here? The name here as developer. You can see it now. Now you will notice that in my main login, in my main root login, when you come to the developer, when you come to the policy, the only two policies I gave is DynamoDB and also EC2, meaning that this man, after a login, he can only have access to that two area. Now he cannot even have access to create like he cannot have access to S3 bucket. Immediately I create S3 bucket. Once I say S3 bucket to go to that portal, you will see what will happen. To tell me that this particular people does not have permission by the time I want to create it. Let me just assume that I want to create one. It will tell me that I don't have permission to this. Let me call it testing. Now move down, move down, move down, move down, move down, move down. So if I want to create now, can you see now? Okay, bucket with the same name is already exists. Okay, let me use S3 Amazon S3 1. Okay. Click. Can you see? It's a field to create bucket. To create a bucket, permission is required. Can you see? Permission is do what is required. But in my main account here, I didn't give him the permission of a S3 bucket. Only the Amazon, only the DynamoDB and also EC2. That is only two things he can operate. He cannot go beyond what you don't give him to do. Can you see it now? So now let me now go back to my main listing. So you can see the reason why it's good. Can you see access denied in that particular area? So now the only thing, the only two things he can have access to is DynamoDB and also EC2. So if I come here and see DynamoDB, he can have access to DynamoDB because I've already given the policy to that one. Can you see now? Go to the table. You can create the table. You can create DynamoDB table. Can you see? Because there is permission for that. That's not where I'm going. Now, I've created that one. I've created the policy, everything now. I can now start using it with my programming part. So I think that's the end of my this thing now. Let me log out this one and let me log out this and stop my video.